Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Perfect World based on novel. So let's start. How powerful was Immortal Palace? Even though they didn't have many core members, their power still shook up all of the higher realms. How many people dared provoke them? This was especially the case when the terrifying existence that had already entered a dormant state in the archaic years still existed in the present world, making all experts feel apprehension. One had to understand that this was a terrifying figure who dared to challenge Supreme Hall's unmatched sectmaster, so even other sectmasters treated him with great importance. However, right now, there was someone challenging Immortal Palace in front of his face, the heavenly deity that fled out, dragged back, head removed, and then tossed out. How bold and imposing was this? It was just too shocking. All sects erupted with commotion, clamoring with noise. Primal chaos surrounded a bronze palace that suspended in the void, exuding a type of astonishing might in the boundless uninhabited region, intimidating all directions. The person inside didn't say anything, but everyone felt terrified. As he breathed in and out, the mountains and rivers rose and fell, this normal breathing surging violently like an ocean. Someone had woken up from his slumber. Everyone trembled in fear. That person was here, only, in the past few years, always remained in a state of sleep. The other sectmaster level figure from Immortal Palace stood guard on the side, managing everything in his place. However now, this person was startled, now awake. How terrifying. A great storm is brewing in the higher realms. Someone said quietly. Now that this person woke up, great waves were definitely going to beat against the shore. Everyone was greatly shocked. Once he was angered, then it would truly be a frightening thing. Part human, part bird, part beast. I can't eat this, just like Underworld Clan, a trash race without any use. A voice sounded from the other side of the realm wall, extremely casual and frivolous, throwing Immortal Palace heavenly deity's corpse out as well. Those who were discussing fervently all stopped, every single one of their expressions strange. This little devil was too unbridled, daring to say these types of words. What was he treating Immortal Palace's heavenly deity as, purely prey? These words were full of disdain. He even added a bit about Underworld Clan, making their clansmen's faces fall ashen, glaring angrily at the spatial hole, truly wishing they could rush into Immortal Ancient and tear him to shreds. This kind of person had never appeared before, brash and domineering. After killing a heavenly deity, he even dared to provoke the people from several outside world ancient sects. One had to keep in mind that Immortal Palace's people were known as the descendants of the human immortal, their bodies having immortal blood flowing through it. The most terrifying thing was that their race's talents were exceptional, yet they were shown disdain instead. It is definitely Huang. Someone guessed. Of course it's him, I am sure of it. This person deserves to be put to death. Fellow comrades, we must join hands to eliminate this evil. Celestial Clan's cultivators added oil to the flames. It was because they were scared. Shahao's growth was too fast. If this continued, he'll pay Celestial Clan a visit in just a few years, going to City of Heaven to display his power. At this moment, a few important figures from Celestial Clan immediately felt distracted, regretting greatly. Why did they have to provoke this Devil King? Back then, they were completely possessed, unable to suppress their greed, not hesitating to slander and injure the youth who escorted their clan's pearl, all of the sake of vicious 10 precious technique, and other things, tying tremendous karma between them. As for Fire Cloud Cavern, Phantom Drake Dao Gate, Luofu True Valley and other inheritances, they even more so experienced a type of fear, as well as endless pressure. That sinner's blood descendant had to be suppressed, or else those sects would be in great danger. They had never encountered such a heaven-defying sinner's blood descendant before. He was just 20 years old, yet he could already hunt down heavenly deities. It really was terrifying. Once this great vicious being grew up, he might be even terrifying than those at the desolate border. They were scared, incomparably worried. They had to eliminate Shahao. As for Underworld Clan, Demonic Sunflower Garden, Divine Temple, and others, there was even less of a need to talk about it. Karma had been tied between them. Even Heavenly Country's lord, the cold-blooded, cruel, heart even colder than steel supreme being assassin was shaken. He stood on the bleeding ancient war chariot, a sword artifact in hand. His eyes were deep, as if they were going to pierce through immoral ancient and see through that person. Shahao's performance finally drew the worry of sect masters. His growth speed made even individuals of this level feel apprehension. It was because if this continued, this youth was not only the opponent of heavenly deities, he might even be able to challenge the great figures here. That would be a truly terrible scene. A youth was challenging this group of powerful figures who had fought since the ancient past, fighting until this present age. This gave them an extremely uncomfortable feeling. A youth that had been overlooked by these sect masters, his rise to power now finally drawing apprehension, even these sect masters no exception. As a result, quite a few people felt great hatred, but also great anxiety, a vague uneasiness within their minds. If he doesn't obey, then just kill him. Heavenly Country's Lord spoke, extremely domineering. My underworld Earth's losses haven't been small. We need a young corpse that has 3 strands of immortal energy around him. After burying him, who knows, after thousands to tens of thousands of years later, an unmatched corpse might be produced. Underworld Earth said. Death. Inside the bronze immortal palace, the number 2 figure of this sect only had this word, killing intent surging. Groups of mountains collapsed. All sides were declaring their position. A few superpowers set their resolution to eliminate Shahao, claiming that this was absolutely necessary. Hey, the children outside, are you all still unconvinced? You all can come here. I'll bring you all on a field trip around Immortal Ancient for free. Huang's voice sounded from the other side of the realm wall, sounding almost a bit languid and absent-minded. On this side, the cultivators from different sects grinded their teeth one after another, the people related to those sects, so angry their noses almost went crooked. Of those present, which one of them wasn't older than him? Yet he dared to act proud of his age and experience, harassing everyone like that. This was a provocation, as well as contempt. How boring. I'm going to sweep through Immortal Ancient, bye. After saying this, he turned around to leave, also bringing his spiritual bodies. It was because once his time was up, his fighting strength would decrease. Leaving his spiritual bodies outside would be a problem. Right now, in Immortal Ancient, great waves rose and fell, surging greatly. It was all triggered by Huang's rise to power. Qingyi stood on a snowy peak, clear as ice and clean as jade. She watched as snowflakes danced about alone, unknown what she was thinking. When Yu Chan heard the news, she immediately became lost in her thoughts. Right now, she was currently standing together with her granduncle. The fairy, who was far above the mortal populace, was a bit anxious and nervous, finding it difficult to calm down. What could there be between me and him? Yu Chan's thoughts wandered, not even raising her head. Child. Heaven-mending sect's heavenly deity, despite having an extremely high cultivation, his skill in communicating with the younger generation really wasn't all that. Just a single sentence he spoke was enough to make his grandniece jump, as if she had her tail stepped on. Granduncle, what are you saying? Yu Chan was both ashamed and angry. Actually, this youngster isn't that bad, his potential great without limit, few people could compare to him since ancient times. If you weren't my sect's holy lady, it really could be discussed. If it really comes down to it, maybe the sect master will be more flexible. Granduncle, did you go crazy? Yu Chan's entire face was red. What going crazy? That hateful brat, even I was badly beaten by him, angering me to death. Not even the sect master had ever treated me like this before. Heaven-mending sect's heavenly deity said furiously. In another area of historical remains, a purple-clothed girl sighed softly. She also heard the rumors outside, learning of Huang's rise, how he hunted down heavenly deities. Moreover, it was still continuing right now. That person was unstoppable, killing who knew how many heavenly deities, to the extent where there were even those from her clan. Yunshi looked at these remains, saying with a sigh, I knew you would rush into the skies one day, but I never expected you to be this domineering, directly entering the 9 heavens. I believe those great ones in the clan are probably feeling regret now. Only, your situation is also becoming more and more dangerous. She looked distracted, emotions complex. Immediately afterwards, she became lost in her thoughts. This person is indeed extremely formidable, even more powerful than those I saw in the ancient times. There was a youth in the remains. He sat on a large purple-colored stone, staring at the red clouds in the horizon. 3 stone senior, even with your terrifying strength, could it be that you are going to challenge him? Yunshi was shocked, asking in this way. I don't wish to anymore. This youth shook his head and then said, I slept for an extremely long amount of time, my mental age not that much greater than you all, so there is no need to call me senior. If there were others here, they would definitely feel incomparable shock. This person was the three-stone heavenly monarch that had disappeared in the endless river of time. In the archaic era, the celestial race rose up, because of their 6 great matchless celestials, and that was why they were known as an emperor race. Those 6 individuals had previously accepted heaven's mandate stones. In later generations, the clan had a disciple who obtained 3 pieces of the heaven's mandate stone alone, shaking past and present, title 3-stone heavenly monarch. This person was extremely strong, deep and immeasurable, praised as the celestial clan's lord of restoration. However, later on, he disappeared mysteriously, never appearing again. Shahao rose up. In the future, if he sweeps through immortal ancient and travels unhindered under the sky, will I be able to go for strolls in the medicine gardens of all different sects? I'll pull a radish or 2 and nibble on them. No, I meant holy medicines. To just randomly squander away, just the thought alone is wonderful. The little rabbit was laughing loudly, blinking her large red eyes, a longing look appearing on her face. She was so happy her mouthful of pretty teeth were revealed. Cao Yusheng and Xuelin were both quite speechless. That day, the reactions of the various sects were all different. Shahao unleashed a great slaughter, no one could stop him. Quite a few of those heavenly deities that entered immortal ancient were killed, chased until there were no paths into heaven and no doors to hell. Only when the others all went into hiding, unable to find any traces of them anymore, did Shahao stop. He immediately headed to Soul Island to discuss with the clan's old heavenly deity, as well as to seek guidance from the Soul race's ancient ancestor. He was preparing to face tribulation, to make himself even more powerful. He needed to ask about all types of matters he had to pay attention to, wishing to ask them to secretly provide protection. Even though he didn't fear much, having some protection was always better than facing tribulation alone. The 8-armed soul race, without a doubt, was shaken up from top to bottom, extremely excited, stirred up to the point where they couldn't be any more excited. Everyone was looking forward to this, all waiting for this moment to arrive. It was because this was related to their lives. Whether or not they could neutralize their curses all banked on this. For this day, they had waited too long. And now, Shahao was going to face tribulation, immediately finding them. This meant that he viewed them as those close to him. This made the old heavenly deity, an ancient ancestor, feel grateful. Previously taking action, not stinting to offend those of the outside world, this wasn't done in vain. This youth bore good intentions towards them after all, everything now worth it. The 8-armed soul race didn't dare act carelessly, secretly contacting the people of other races to protect Shahao, assist him in smoothly making it through this trial. They were extremely worried, because this youth was still going to face the most powerful heavenly tribulation, his path destined to be extremely difficult. No one knew what would appear in the mysterious lightning, unsure if he could live through this or not. A clap of thunder sounded, shaking up immortal ancient. It struck down on a small world, making all clans tremble in fear. What is going on? Could it be that the outside world was attacking immortal ancient, wishing to enter? Everyone's mind trembled. There was no way they wouldn't be nervous. Then, lightning poured down from the skies, drowning a small world with blazing radiance. It was as if that small world was set aflame, just too resplendent. The thunder sounds were too deafening and resounding. This was not an attack from the outside world, nor was it divine drums, but true heavenly thunder. At this moment, everyone knew that someone was crossing tribulation, guiding lightning from the 9 heavens. Lightning poured down like a long river, overflowing downwards relentlessly. Could it be that another heavenly talent was crossing tribulation to enter the true deity realm? After Huang, exiled immortal, and 10-crown king led the way, some people began to imitate them, wishing to use this method to raise their strength and become kings among creatures. Unfortunately, too many people died because of this, not every exceptional talent succeeding, not every young supreme being able to cross tribulation. Many people died not too long ago, all of them well-known geniuses of the 3,000 provinces, all of them with great reputations, yet in the end, not a single one of them succeeded. Forget about them, this was true even for ancient freaks, the loss is great. Apart from a few successful individuals, there weren't many who were trying this nowadays. It had already been quiet for an extremely long time, no one challenging any longer. They all obediently cultivated to the great circle of the true deity realm, no one trying to resist lightning. So what was going on today? Why did someone try to take this step? Could it be that an exceptional monster had just emerged from seclusion, Or could there be some heaven-warping genius who believed themselves to be comparable to Ning Chuan and the others? Not right, this lightning is just too terrifying, even heavenly deities likely dying if they entered. Suddenly, someone cried out in shock, face turning pale. This was just the beginning, yet the lightning was already flourishing like this, so what about later? It was definitely going to be insane. This lightning was a bit ridiculously terrifying. Was there a heavenly deity crossing tribulation? When they thought of this possibility, the expressions on everyone's faces froze. Just how confident would a genius be to dare do this? Did they not treat life as a big deal? One had to bear in mind that the further one climbed, the harder it would be. If one continued to face tribulation, the dangers they encountered would also be greater. It would shoot up exponentially. This was true even during immortal ancient great era. Each time one's cultivation became a level higher, the mortality rate of tribulation would be substantially increased. Crossing a heavenly deity level tribulation, that was definitely horrifying. Not right, who among the natives would dare do this? Even if they broke into the heavenly deity realm, they wouldn't treat their lives like a joke, right? It was because everyone knew that there wasn't anyone from the outsiders who had newly broken through into heavenly deity level. It's Huang. In that instant, everyone thought of him. Even though he wasn't a heavenly deity, he had strength that was comparable to them. No one saw this themselves, but a group of people immediately suspected that it was Huang. It is definitely him. He was still unleashing a great slaughter not too long ago, yet now, he is already starting to face tribulation. Many people trembled with fear, especially those that bore hostility against them. Their faces became snow white, scalps becoming numb. This fella was too heaven-defying, everything he did difficult for others to match. Of course, there were some who suspected that it was 10 Crown King or exiled immortal, because it wouldn't be too unexpected for those two to do these things. Immortal Ancient was thrown into chaos. Many people received news, hurrying towards the small world to verify who it was that was crossing tribulation. This is Divine King Tribulation, Saint Tribulation. Someone sighed greatly. Holy sacrifice, this was a special cultivation realm that could be overlooked. There was no need to actually step foot in this realm. Once one did step foot in it, their strength would fluctuate from high to low, and then those who ultimately made it through would be known as divine kings. Meanwhile, those who failed would fall below even those at the divine flame realm, truly miserable. Holy sacrifice was strange to begin with, so there were naturally some unknown variables when crossing tribulation in this realm. It would be extremely terrifying. Divine King Tribulation was extremely difficult. There were some who had deduced that it wasn't easy to cross, couldn't be crossed. That is Divine King Tribulation. Is he really going to attempt it? In that instant, news spread, originating from all directions. Many sex-powerful individuals hurried over, wishing to witness this grand occasion. Everyone came, seeing the person in the endless lightning, facing the sea of electricity alone. It was him as expected, Huang. The emotions of every single person from the 3,000 provinces were complicated. That youth looked delicate and pretty, his age not great, even younger than them, yet he now had this type of accomplishment. This type of Dao fruit left others in despair. How were they supposed to catch up? As part of the same generation, it truly left them a bit dejected. This was especially the case for some youngsters who were more arrogant, their eyes dim, knowing that they wouldn't be able to match Huang in their lives, unable to compare to this person. His opponents are no longer us, his gaze set in the distance, staring at those exceptional creatures that have lived since ancient times. Someone sighed, couldn't help but feel a bit bitter and pained. Soon after, quite a few people raised their heads again. This type of person didn't need to be chased, no need to be compared with. After all, he was Huang, someone who was completely unique. If one wanted to compare to him, only the exiled immortal and 10 Crown King had the qualifications, something they could think about. This was something unrelated to most people, so there was no need to feel discouraged or jealous. The heavens split and earth cracked, water flowing in reverse. That type of irregular phenomenon left everyone stupefied. What is going on? What is happening? Many people were stupefied. In the skies, a great river overflowed, engulfing towards the skies, turning into a vast expanse and purging the heavens. That wasn't water, but rather true lightning. It rose from the ground, hacking towards the sky. Divine King Tribulation is strange after all, not something that could be viewed with normal reasoning. Soon after, everyone became awake. Divine King Tribulation was different, having all types of strange scenes. It wasn't even strange for the lightning tribulation to originate from the earth. A gong sounded, shaking everyone's ears until they felt like they were going to explode. In the void, a pair of gongs suddenly appeared. They smashed together, crushing Shahao inside. Lightning interweaved, the gongs enormous like mountains. The scene was extremely terrifying. Those were produced by lightning, the gongs crushing down as if they were going to directly blast him to death. Immediately afterwards, the heavenly tribulation transformed, turning into a large swamp, trapping Shahao. A crocodile rose from the swamp, devouring him in one gulp. Everyone was absolutely dumbstruck. This was just the start, yet the lightning already changed forms, turning into artifacts, creatures, and other things. It was definitely difficult to cross. Shahao displayed his might. Now, his fighting strength was at its peak state, scattering the lightning with his own symbols, freeing himself from the crocodile's body, destroying that part of the void. When lightning erupted, the sound of bird cries sounded from above. A group of suns descended, just too resplendent and dazzling, making it impossible for people to open their eyes. That was a golden bright and dazzling sun, within it divine birds, all of them with golden bodies. Right now, they tore open the scorching sun, spreading their wings and diving down. A group of golden crows carrying heaven and earth fire essence, and endless lightning covered the sky and hid the earth. They drowned out this place, covering everything in golden radiance. Everyone's expressions immediately changed. This type of heavenly tribulation was just too astonishing, too terrifying. It was because those golden crows had heavenly deity aura. What kind of scene was this? One that to understand that there was a group of golden crows diving down, carrying lightning, the light of destruction, as they dove towards Shahao. If this was an ordinary person, how could they dodge, how could they even resist? It was completely a death situation. There were heavenly deities here, their expressions immediately changing. This isn't prepared for normal people, but the tribulation prepared specifically for those who cultivated 3 strands of immortal energy. An elder said with a light sigh. This type of tribulation was definitely enough to kill other creatures, not something that could be crossed at all, a hopeless situation. Sure enough, Shahao released a roar. His fist shone, 3 strands of immortal energy rushing out. He displayed the most powerful precious techniques to resist those golden crows and lightning. This was an intense battle, a type of life and death trial. Even Shahao's current expression was grave. He slaughtered his way into the golden crow flock, golden feathers immediately flying about, carrying blood, withering away. This blood came from the golden crows, as well as Shahao himself. He faced this group of lightning creatures, resisting the concentrated lightning, suffering injuries as a result. This was a great decisive battle. In that instant, the one in the skies attacked. Golden crows released great cries, the scene astonishing. Eventually, Shahao became like a young heavenly emperor, his hair disheveled, body covered in blood stains. He unleashed great attacks, meeting enemies from all sides head-on. He stood in the void, sending out one fist per creature, blasting those golden suns apart. The scene was terrifying. Golden crows were killed like this one after another, blood pouring everywhere. Everyone became dumbstruck as they watched this. Was this the true Huang? This was the embodiment of his strength. Shahao's flesh was damaged, cracks covering his body. It was because this battle was extremely difficult, the lightning too powerful, extremely concentrated. However, when the golden suns disappeared, the divine bird sounds retreating, Shahao passed this trial. He rushed up, piercing through the lightning, ascending to the 2nd layer of heaven. If it were others, this might be considered completely ended. However, the most powerful lightning tribulation was shocking beyond imagination. This was just the start. If nothing unexpected happened, then he needed to ascend 9 great heavens, slaughtering through heaven and earth one after another, and only then would it be considered complete. Everyone believed that it would be extremely difficult for Shahao. The time spent in the 2nd layer of heaven would be long, the injuries even more serious, but things weren't as they expected. Shahao released a great roar. This time, he displayed the willow deity technique, using it to support himself, causing his blood energy to surge. Then, he used other precious techniques, slaughtering towards the heavens. He passed several great trials in succession, quickly entering the 5th great layer of heaven, charging forward like a hot knife through butter. Even though he bled during this process, his battle clothes tattered, body covered in injuries, even having his bones broken, the lightning couldn't stop his footsteps. The sixth layer of heaven, he encountered an opponent. There was a creature riding on a heavenly horse, black heavenly spear in hand. He stormed over, the heavenly spear deep and cold, cutting apart the sky. Sparks flew in all directions. Shahal fought an intense battle against him. In the end, it had just started, yet 9 creatures like this immediately appeared, only with different weapons. They all flocked over. Kill. Shahal fought a great battle. This was not a normal person. Those opponents were all ridiculously powerful, able to fight him head-on. This was a bitter battle. Hot blood fell from Shahal's body. He displayed magical force, risking life and limb, everything only for the sake of rising above, crossing this trial, refining himself into the most powerful divine king. This was divine king tribulation. He needed the lightning to refine his body, temper his primordial spirit, making himself even stronger. An intense struggle was carried out, blood dyeing the skies red. In the distance, Yunshi came, dressed in purple clothes, standing high up in the skies. Her graceful bearing was moving, pure and beautiful. She released a light sigh. The youth from back then already grew to this extent, far surpassing her expectations. He was just too powerful. Yunshi heard news of Shahal's matters, because he was just too famous. Each time great winds and clouds stirred, he wouldn't be missing. However, she never visited him. The events of the past left her feeling ashamed and uneasy. This was the first time she saw Shahal an immortal ancient, after being separated for many years. When she saw his unmatched style, she seemed to have seen her clansman's regret and helplessness. On the other side, Yu-chan also arrived, her eyes flickering, not saying a single word, just watching quietly. Only, the granduncle at her side spoke endlessly. Even though he was given a beating by Shahal, he was still generous with his praise towards Shahal's great power, from time to time even involving Yu-chan. This left heaven-mending sect's holy lady annoyed and angry, but at the same time, her emotions were all over the place. What most powerful? He might just die here, blasted to death by the lightning. Yu-chan refuted her own granduncle. Soon after, Shahal killed those opponents, rising up to the 7th layer. He even captured a heavenly horse, giving it a try, unexpectedly using it as a mount. This left everyone's tongues tied and mouths agape. Of course, he paid the price for this. That heavenly horse roared, and then exploded, turning into lightning. Fortunately, he had long made preparations, leaping up to slaughter his way over to the 7th layer of heaven's lightning sea. Not good, Huang's body was broken in the 7th great layer. Someone cried out in alarm. This was a hard battle. Not only were there creatures, there were also mountains and rivers, all formed from lightning. They exploded from time to time, and there was even ascension light. He was chopped in half at the waist. However, he forcefully condensed his body, healing his broken body, making it through. Under everyone's eyes of disbelief, he made it through into the 8th layer of heaven. It was too fast, this type of speed leaving others shocked. Is he trying to break a record? To use the least amount of time and directly charge through. A great disaster will be waiting for him in the 9th great heaven. It is still unknown whether he will survive or not. There was someone who spoke like this. On the 8th layer of heaven, Shahal saw a faint stream of light that split apart the mountain range. Then, he saw a city up ahead that was incomparably massive. The city gates were tightly closed, and it didn't open up to him. All around him, mountains rose and fell, ancient trees towering. Everything was, without a doubt, formed from lightning. This wasn't a true scene, but it was precisely because of this that it was frightening. The mountain region was extremely quiet, the enormous mountain forest not making any sounds despite being formed from lightning, as if they had remained lonely and desolate throughout time, lacking the slightest sound. Shahal entered the mountain forest, walking towards the enormous and mysterious city. He frowned. This city suppressed the 8th heaven, and only by making it through this place could he see the skies of a higher layer of heaven. Divine King Tribulation was precisely this sinister, displaying all types of abnormalities. Shahal got closer, arriving in front of a massive city gate. When he saw this, he sensed an extremely ancient feeling from it. The city walls were mottled with dull colors, full of blade traces and sword holes. He silently pondered for a bit. Had this type of city existed before in reality? He always felt like the things he saw in the lightning tribulation corresponded to things of the outside world. This was probably why an imprint was left, displaying all types of things. Suddenly, a muffled sound could be heard. The city released a snow-white radiance that was sparkling and resplendent. Then, an enormous object appeared. This was a skull, one that was comparable to a city in size. It was white like fine jade, translucent like crystal. It rolled out, crushing towards Shahao. He really never expected that an enormous snow-white skull would appear from this kind of enormous city, rolling out just like that. Shahao's palm struck down on that skull. It was just like striking immortal gold, causing king-chiang sounds to ring through the air, sparks flying in all directions. Its toughness was a bit frightening. With his current strength, he unexpectedly couldn't shatter it. A light immediately shone from within the skull, the eye sockets especially releasing sharp radiance. In addition, the lower jaw was opened, snow-white teeth releasing light as it bit down towards Shahao. What kind of thing was this? Shahao resisted the skull's blinding radiance, his 7 apertures all releasing auspicious multicolored light, surrounding Shahao, making this place hazy, increasingly difficult to observe his surroundings. At this time, Shahao felt an incredibly uncomfortable feeling, as if he was stuck in a swamp, landing in a spiderweb, more trapped the greater he struggled. The 7 apertures released multicolored light, skull shining, crushing down on Shahao. Finally, it devoured Shahao, its lower jaw closing, holding him in its mouth. Then, it quickly became like a pill furnace, raging flames surging, absorbing lightning force through its openings to refine the Shahao within. Skull furnace, this was a sinister precious artifact that displayed immeasurable might. It alone suppressed Shahao. Immediately afterwards, heaven and earth erupted, the sky full of lightning radiance disappearing, all of the lightning rushing towards that skull furnace, dazzling as it all flowed along the 7 apertures. 8th layer of heaven, all of the heavenly tribulation force condensed together, all of the force concentrated to kill Huang. Everyone became stupefied, feeling utterly shocked. At the same time, everyone saw that ancient city became like a stove, supporting the skull, raging viciously. It absorbed the force of heaven, becoming more and more strange and frightening. The enormous skull was supported above the ancient city. King-chiang sounds rang out. This was Shahao's struggle as he struck the skull. What kind of power is this? Forget about normal people, even heavenly deities were terrified. When they pictured themselves in this situation, they knew that they would undoubtedly die, difficult to preserve their life. This wasn't a streak or 2 of lightning, but the concentration of all the divine light filling the heavens. All of the electrical radiance suppressed towards a single place together. This was the joint force of the 8th layer of heaven, the fusion of all heavenly tribulation, attacking that place with boundless power. When others faced tribulation, it would always be streak after streak of lightning. Where would they see such an astonishing sight? The lightning that engulfed the heavens above and earth below concentrated together, bombarding that place. This was a life and death trial. Even Shahao himself never expected to be on the defensive like this, that it would be this dangerous, exceeding everything in the past. Inside the skull furnace, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The dense lightning radiance turning into liquid, submerging Shahao within, the enormous heavenly judgment force crushing all tangible matter. Right now, Shahao was in danger. All of the lightning radiance condensed over, focusing on his body. In that instant, his flesh was in tatters, bones broken, entire body scorched black, as if he was completely cooked. The space between Shahao's brows split apart, blood blossoming, primordial spirit almost blasted out. This primordial spirit didn't enter the lightning, enduring the ravaging, the thousands of tempering, tens of thousands instances of refining, simply about to explode. Divine King Tribulation, this was a hell-life torment that made one wish they were dead rather than alive. The force to overturn the heavens, the boundless lightning, it surged in this bone furnace. Shahao's flesh was in tatters, his primordial spirit also cracked. He was like a candle flame in the wind, his life possibly extinguished at any moment. Heal! Shahao shouted loudly. The true primordial record operated, and together with the Willow deity's technique, he did everything he could to mend his injured body and primordial spirit. One had to admit his strength was powerful, achievements in bone texts profound. His completely broken up flesh and primordial spirit recombined, fusing together. However, soon after, a hong sounded. Lightning bombarded his body again, blasting his flesh scorched black and into several pieces. This was the case for his primordial spirit as well, becoming dim and lightless. Shahao released a low shout, not willing to admit defeat. He resisted here, condensing his body again, recombining his self. However, soon after, his flesh carapace split again, primordial spirit breaking into pieces. This type of scene was a bit frightening, an endless torment and hell. Again and again, Shahao encountered disaster here. His body, his primordial spirit, both seemed to be on the verge of destruction. However, one could see that from the attacks again and again, even though his flesh was dim, there was an indescribable type of aura filling it. This was true for his primordial spirit as well. This was a tempering. Even though he might be killed, dying here, if he could make it through, then he might rise up to a new level, becoming even stronger. Shahao clenched his teeth, unyielding as he resisted the heavenly tribulation. He didn't passively endure the attacks, always attacking the furnace walls whenever he recombined his body again. He used all of his precious techniques, condensing all of his strength to blast the bone furnace's walls. Being on the defensive wasn't his style. He took the initiative to attack. Breaking through this point and rushing out was more to his liking. Shahao had never been in such a sorry state. It was unknown just how many times his flesh carapace was broken. However, he continued to attack the same point. 9 deaths 1 life, in the end, it was almost 10 deaths no life. His life was about to reach its end, all of his strength exhausted. In the end, the 8th heavens art operated. This was already the 10th time, all precious techniques merging, finally opening up a crack. Then, with a catcher sound, the bone furnace split open, and then this place exploded, lightning appearing endlessly, violently surging. Shahao was blasted flying. Many people leapt up in fear, standing at the highest point, gazing forward. All of them widening their eyes with shock. Huang, is he dead? Flesh blasted into 9 pieces, primordial spirit scattered, becoming an expanse of fiery light. Huang is going to fall. Everyone was shocked. Worthy of being the most powerful heavenly tribulation, making even Huang, who had 3 strands of immortal energy, suffer this type of disaster, about to die before everyone's eyes. There was a heavenly deity who sneered inwardly, decisively taking action, producing secret treasures to attack the lightning tribulation. Shahao's 9 pieces of flesh and primordial spirit rushed together, quickly evading this strike. That secret treasure flickered in the lightning, brushing past his body. In the end, this secret treasure exploded, and a streak of lightning smashed into the distance to kill that heavenly deity. It was because he interfered with the lightning radiance. However, this person was formidable, his methods heaven-reaching, actually having a mysterious life substitute symbol, suffering disaster in his place. One had to understand that this was something rarely seen in even great sects, extremely hard to stumble upon. There was an expert outside trying to interfere, just now wishing to kill Shahao. Blood energy roiled. Shahao's flesh rushed together, forcibly piecing itself back together. His primordial spirit also returned to its position. His entire body was scorched black, his condition extremely frail. Shahao opened his eyes, coldly staring into the direction that heavenly deity attacked from, but didn't chase after him. Now wasn't a good time to display power, he needed to recover. This place became quiet, no one taking action. 8-armed soul race broke out in cold sweat, having the entire race move out, searching around here and protecting this place. After who knew how much time had passed, Shahao shed a layer of scorched black skin, revealing a jade-like sparkling body. The space between his brows shone. He recovered again. He still didn't act recklessly, not seeking out that mysterious attacker, instead ascending to the 9th heaven. As long as he passed this trial, then everything would be complete. It was because even though there was a 10th layer of heaven above the 9th heaven, it shouldn't suppress and kill him. It was because after he experienced a simple trial last time, he obtained the lightning tribulation liquid. This time, the crucial part was the 9th great layer of heaven. What left Shahao shocked was that above the 9th heaven, everything was incomparably quiet. There was danger, viciousness, the creatures rushing over plant species, surrounding and attacking him. However, compared to the 8th heaven, they were extremely weak. He dealt with them quite easily, not troublesome at all. It was more like a self-forging, no danger. This left others shocked as well. What was going on? This was too easy, right? Could it be that even the heavens was running out of juice? Huang's luck was just too good. However, immediately afterwards, Shahao was horrified, his face becoming a bit pale. He knew where the problem laid. This was an absolute disaster. It was because he suddenly discovered that his strength was declining, falling from the heavenly deity level down to the true deity realm, and then tumbling into the divine flame realm. It was too terrible. In this place, in this type of trial, this was simply a path of death. The only fortunate thing was that aside from those creatures, the other lightning was relatively calm, not attacking him. Shahao only had this choice. He couldn't approach those creatures, or else it would definitely be a road leading straight to death. He finally experienced the strangeness of the Divine King tribulation, making a Divine Flame Realm cultivator face those powerful creatures' attacks. It really was difficult to make it out of this alive. What is going on? Someone cried out in shock, revealing a strange expression. Holy sacrifice is a strange cultivation realm that is difficult to predict. One's cultivation would fluctuate erratically from high to low. Right now, he fell to the bottom, about to be finished. Someone was taking delight in his disaster, incredibly excited. This place immediately erupted with noise. Everyone knew that Huang was likely truly going to die here. Only Shahao himself knew that this was brought about by the heavenly tribulation. He originally still had 1 to 3 days left, still far from running out of time. This terrifying lightning tribulation could actually be like this, making his Tao and cultivation decline. This was the true danger. Ha ha, this heavenly tribulation's power isn't that great, we can even cross. Go, let's lend Huang a helping hand. There were people transmitting sound secretly, sneers sounding continuously. Right at this time, 5 figures immediately flew out at the same time, rushing into the lightning to kill Huang. The heavenly deities of the outside world, after Shahao unleashed a great slaughter, all became shocked. When they saw him massacre so many people, these people went into hiding, only now did some appear, seizing this opportunity to kill him. You all dare. The 8-armed soul race's people shouted in anger, also taking action. Everyone, please cease the disorder. The powerful figure from the natives took action, stopping the 8-armed soul race, and even more so looking towards soul race's ancient ancestor. The danger had arrived. Shahao was now suffering the most terrifying trouble. At this moment, Yunshi's expression changed and Yu Chan's eyes widened, the masses all shocked. They all stared forward.